safeguard their honor.
Welcome to the world today. I'm Vikas Majid Khan. We're still talking about the India-Pakistan recent standoff. We want to analyze what brought things to that pass. There's a very interesting article written by Mr. Robert Fisk stating that India plotted a dangerous attack with Israel's help. We're going to talk about that in some detail. Let me introduce my guests in the studio. Joining me for the conversation today, first of all, we have Brigadier Shahid Jagir Saab with us, and joining him, we have Toghrul Yamin Saab. Thank you very much, sir, for being here. Sir, I'll start with Yamin Saab for this one, because you've also read the article, Yamin Saab, this one concerning Israel's fingerprints over this entire operation.
I have.
What do you make of it, sir?
Robert Fisk has been deployed in Pakistan, if you know that, once upon a time. He was here. Now he covers Middle East mostly. So he says that India and Israel have close collaboration. All of us know about it. They have very close defense collaboration. Benjamin Netanyahu paid a long visit to India last year, 6 days long visit. So what he says is that they are also collaborating in counterterrorism training, and the Indian soldiers go there regularly to the Negev desert for counterterrorism training. And the interesting thing that he points out is that he says that the Indians are trying to copy the Israeli template, the way they are behaving with the Palestinians. It's the similar attitude they have adopted for the Kashmiris. So Mr. Fisk is not far off the mark. What he's saying is quite correct. Israelis, and we have this statement of the DGISPR, which was in the morning's paper, in which he said that Israelis were colluding with India. They were about to send aircraft to Jamnagar, probably somewhere in Rajasthan.
According to the Indians, the missiles that they used were Israeli-made, something 2000s, which were probably ill-fitted for their MiGs. Probably, it seems to be like that.
Probably.
But something much more sinister is afoot, sir, and that is, we spoke about it in our program yesterday as well, and this trying to copy the Israeli model vis-a-vis the Palestinians, it's a very dangerous situation that may develop, sir. If the Indians decide to start pushing the Kashmiris against the wall, or try to, even worse, try to push them across the border into Pakistan, turn them into refugees, how would the world react to that sort of a situation, sir, if it were to develop?
Well, in my point of view, you know, these two conflicts have a lot of similarities. One, the Palestinians and the Kashmiris, because they both are the ideological struggles that they have.
They came into being almost at the same time as well.
Absolutely, absolutely. So their way of dealing, what the Israelis have been doing, India definitely wants at this stage someone to partner him in this collaboration, and as Toghrul has said, that their defense cooperation, you know, it's no hidden from anyone, and as you have said, the spike kit which was fitted on the Indian bombs which were dropped at the Balakot, they are Israeli mates. This is very much confirmed. You can go Google on the internet and you will find out the smart, precise and cheap, they call it. So that's one thing. The second is the attack on Pakistan, collaboration of India. Well, Israel is all out to take out our nukes. This is not the first time. Back in Kargil and before also, there were news that the Israel has a collaboration with India to go for an airstrike on our nuclear installations. But alhamdulillah, our intelligence is 2-3 steps ahead of Mossad and RAW and CIA and MI6. So we you know, got the information, and if they will come, they will get the same fate as was given to Wing Commander Abhiman.
Sir, according to some top government sources, it is also said that New Delhi planned the strike from its airbase in Rajasthan and then stepped back only after very severe warnings from Pakistan, saying that if that were to be the case, Pakistan would respond effectively, and therefore they had to change those plans. Do you have any information regarding that sinister plan as well, sir?
The DGISPR spoke about this plan with some select journalists yesterday, and it did appear, and it was reported in the morning newspapers about this Israeli plan. And I would like to go further back in the 1980s. I think it was 1984 that the Indians actually invited the Israelis to have a replay of what they did with the Iraqi nuclear plant in Osirak. Remember that 8th of June 1980 probably, when they went and destroyed the Iraqi nuclear power plant, and they wanted to have a replay of that, and they were actually sending aircraft to Jamnagar, and again Pakistan got wind of it, and through very credible sources, and the Indians were told that we are going to respond, and they stepped back. So again what they were doing, again similar kind of plan was there. So India does emulate Israel, India does try to copy Israel, India does try to have some kind of collaboration with Israel. So it cannot be far-fetched. They have been trying to do it, and also if you may recall in 98 when Pakistan was about to respond to the Indian nuclear tests, again there were reports that there was some kind of, as you said, sinister plan to actually target our sites where we were to conduct the nuclear explosions aerially. It did not happen because Pakistan Air Force went into high alert, and friendly governments were also informed that this kind of action will not be tolerated. So India and Israel have been in cahoots with each other. They have been trying to do this to Pakistan. This is nothing new. So I think Pakistan ought to remain on alert. Pakistan should know that this kind of collaboration exists with Israel, and was very correctly pointed out by my worthy colleague over here that Pakistani intelligence agencies have their eyes and ears open. They have their ears very close to the ground, and I'm sure our assets in the Middle East are following what is happening from the Israeli aerodromes, and I don't think we'll be found lacking. I think our CAPs, combat air patrols, etc., are fully alert, and they'll take them on in case they dare to do that. So,
sir, another very interesting thing you mentioned was the role of the friendly governments. What can we expect now? We also have read reports in the press that the US and Middle Eastern countries stepped up their efforts to bring India and Pakistan back from the brink. Going forward, sir, we've all identified that it is Kashmir really which is the sore point in this entire altercation. So how important is it for friendly governments as well as governments across the world to take the Kashmir issue now very, very seriously and try to come up with a solution for this problem, because it will keep coming up again and again if we don't find a proper solution for it now, sir?
Look, this is one thing which we have been, Pakistan government has been hampering upon in the UN, in the OIC and other major bodies of the world, which which plays an important role in settling the issues of the World Forum. Unless this issue is resolved, it is not possible that we have our normal relations with India. India has to accept this bitter fact, and they have to, swallow this bitter pill that Kashmir is not part of them. Second thing, if you go into the history of Kashmir, Kashmir has never been part of India. It was sold to the Indian government, the Maharaja, by 25 lakh rupees by the British government. So, which was against the will and wish of the Kashmiris. Kashmir, the Muslim ruler of the Kashmir, first Muslim ruler probably was in 1380. So you have to see the background. The Kashmiris were the one which we saw creation of Pakistan, as a dream coming true. So on one side you say that there should be a human liberty, human rights, and all that. As Nelson Mandela said in his book Long Road to Freedom, that a law-abiding person, if denied the right to live according to his desire, will become an outlaw. So this time India has been blaming Pakistan in order to crush upon the Kashmir struggle, And there is no way, and the world bodies should know this thing, that by diffusing the tension time and again, and as the India is, a small cracker goes on in India, and there goes Pakistan, that this terrorist act has been done by Pakistan. Irrespective of the investigation, and irrespective of knowing the background of that, irrespective that there are 22 freedom struggles going on in India, anything goes on in India, it is blamed on Pakistan. And unfortunately, despite knowing this thing, that the Indian media is a pack of lie, they tell the white lie,
And half-truths.
the world still listen to them. You see now the F-16 they are propagating. The Finnish analyst, I was reading a report yesterday, he said that this engine which has been shown by the Indian media, it is not of F-16. The F-16 company has itself said that it's not our aircraft. And despite the fact they are saying the same.
Well, an Indian analyst in an Indian TV program said the same thing while they were live, and they've been crestfallen on a number of issues because of their lies being caught out at every step.
Even on one of the channel, I have seen an aviation expert on the Indian TV saying that this is not an F-16.
Right, sir. So moving forward, we recently saw the resolution that came out from the OIC condemning India's atrocities in occupied Kashmir. The Indians reacted rather badly to that resolution, with Sushma Swaraj calling it an internal matter of India. Now, this is where it gets very problematic. Initially, sir, the Kashmir issue was an international issue, which is why it has been lying dormant in the United Nations Security Council for over 70 years now. None of those resolutions which were passed in the United Nations have been carried out. For example, the plebiscite that was supposed to be held still has not been held. Then later on, sir, as time went by, we saw the Kashmir issue being reduced to a bilateral issue between India and Pakistan. That was the second phrase or phase that they went into in terms of the propaganda and the lies that they have propagated. And now she's talking about it being an internal matter. Is this not being seen by the international community as a gross violation of international norms and truths, sir?
I think the international community knows about it. The international community knows about the gross human rights violations in Kashmir, but they ignore that because they have trade relationships with India. They do not want to annoy India.
We'll come to that as well, sir,
Okay.
because something very interesting vis-a-vis India's trade relationship has also developed. We'll talk about it further in the program, but I still want to talk about the importance of downgrading the importance of the Kashmir issue, sir. Would you like to comment on that?
No, as UN has published a report. It has given the same fact and figure. We are not saying, Pakistan is not saying, there's no any Muslim country is saying. It's the UN which is saying that the murders, the atrocities, the rapes, the killing of children, using children as messengers and spying, this all is written in that document, which is there available on the internet, on the UN website. But the Indian army chief and the Indian hierarchy says that it's a pack of lies. Now, who to trust? Now, they don't want to trust the UN, they don't want to trust any OIC, they don't want to trust any other human body.
But do you see the sinister backtracking of the Indian government from the bilateral issue that Pakistan and India were supposed to discuss, which again also never happened, to now being called an internal matter, sir? That is the real issue over here. It is not an integral part of India.
This is what it is, which very interesting. Now, if you read that agreement which the Maharaja of Kashmir did with the Kashmiris and the Indian government, they just said that Indian government will be responsible for three things: the defense, the foreign affair, and the communication. Sorry, defense, finance, and communication. Rest, the Raja himself said
Foreign
that
affairs, sir. It was foreign
yes, foreign
affairs.
affairs. Then the Raja itself said that it will be decided by the people by having a plebiscite. The Indian Viceroy at that time, he also suggested to the Raja, it is documented in the history books, that the moment when the situation gets settled, there should be plebiscite in India. Then how can they say that it's an internal matter of India and Pakistan? Listen to the Kashmiri people, what they want. India is now trying to do away with 35A and another. Why? Because Kashmiris very openly say that we are not part of you. You were supposed to hold a plebiscite. And it is the responsibility of the UN and the world leaders to accomplish that. Now, this cannot be done unless there is a third-party intervention. And that is why India always says it's an internal matter. Now, the Indian constitution which was made, it is not signed by the Sikhs. So this is part of the history. Now, why don't you let them decide? If they say that we want to live with India, by all means, we don't have any objection to that, but at least hold the plebiscite over there, give the right to the people, those to whom they want to join. But you suppress their voice, you suppress them forcefully, and do not allow that the rightful authority which has been given by God and the humanity to them. You suppress that, and then you say that it's an internal right of internal matter of India. Well, this is unacceptable at all.
Well, sir, moving on to the trade importance of India as a market, Mr. Donald Trump, Sir President Trump of the US, has moved to end the special trade treatment for India, according to reports. CNN has also reported that. Mr. Trump has announced plans to end the special trade treatment for India while accusing the country of unfairly shutting out US businesses. He wrote a letter to the US Congress on Monday signaling his intent to remove India from the generalized system of preferences, this is the GSP, and saying that the Indian government has not assured the United States that it will provide equitable and reasonable access to the markets of India. What do you think about that, sir?
Khasab, India is a very protectionist market. They had this special agreement, nuclear agreement, 123 agreement with the United States, and the United States thought that they are going to capture the nuclear market, that they are going to sell them the Westinghouse nuclear power plants. That did not happen. So Indians are very shrewd businessmen. They want to be strategic partners of the US. They have very far-reaching defense ties with them. They are considered a strategic partner, but when it comes to trade, they are very, very shrewd. They don't allow easy access to their markets. And also you see what happened in the case of this much maligned Rafale aircraft deal, full of scandals. Modi actually gave it to one of his business friends, Anil Ambani. Ambanis have no previous experience of manufacturing aircraft. So he has given, if I'm not wrong, 300,000 crores deal to them. So there are wheels within wheels. Indians can be very shrewd and very nasty with their business partners. They will do deals which then they can turn back. But again, you see, they can do that. It's such a huge market, 1 billion plus people over there, a growing middle class which
so you think that this is really not going to have much of an impact between what businesses already existing between the US and India?
I do not know the exact trade volume, but you can consider this. India and China has a $80 billion trade volume, $80 billion. Pakistan pales into insignificance when you consider Pakistan-China ties. So the US cannot just walk away from this market. They are trying to put pressure on them. The same way that they are trying to put pressure on the Chinese. See the tariff wars that are taking place. They're slapping down tariffs, but they know that if they just cannot walk away from the Chinese market, because Chinese is a big consumer market. Even the Chinese say that they want their citizens to indulge in consumption. There was a time when they just used to wear one Mao suit and be happy with it. Now they actually encourage their people to buy, splurge, spend money. So the Chinese and Americans will not walk away from whatever deals that they're doing. Chinese and Indians are not going to walk away from it. See, it comes to Pakistan. You see, we are not even utilizing the full potential of GSP plus that has been extended to us by the EU.
That's right, sir.
So the first thing we have to do is to make our country strong. We should be economically strong. Currently, we are begging people. The money that we have in our coffers are borrowed money.
True, sir.
$6 billion. So the Indians have something like $400 billion in their as foreign exchange reserves. So you can't compare that with India, you see. That is the problem. You have to improve your markets, you have to improve the market confidence. We have been the worst affected by this current standoff. You see, our stock exchange stopped performing. It has fallen below expectations, and unless this thing is somehow resolved, or unless the tensions are diffused, you will continue to suffer from that. Your people will take away their monies from this place. And when I talk about friendly governments, it is the governments who have invested in Pakistan. Chinese have invested in Pakistan. UAE government has invested in Pakistan. The Saudis have invested in Pakistan. So they want stability in this area. So what we need to do is really to tell our friends that, look, you have to stabilize the region. If the permanent state of hostility is not good for anybody, particularly for Pakistan.
Absolutely, sir. Unfortunately, sir, intermittent firing along the LOC continues despite the, one should say, the dampening of the hostilities between India and Pakistan. But still, sporadic firing is continuing over there. How do you see this situation, sir? Do you think that it's going to peter out in the coming weeks, or do you think there is a chance that it might flare up again? And there are many who are concerned about it. The Pakistani armed forces are still on high alert, and they want to make sure that there is no chance of any war before we settle back to our normal routines, sir. How do you see it?
Vikas, look, the coming 2 weeks are very, very crucial. India is desperate to give some response, this is my point of view, that some response to save off its face, especially the Indian political leader. If not, at least to keep this pot boiling. Because for the Indian present government, Modi government, it is very difficult to call it off totally before the elections. Yes, they will try to, yesterday I was seeing the news that an Indian submarine has also been spotted. So these are the activities in which they are probing and feeling the response of Pakistan government. So that means that they are not totally given away with the idea of striking somewhere in Pakistan. The second thing is that despite the fact that our friendly countries have intervened, but the fact of the matter is that it will be difficult for Indians, especially for Modi, to withdraw at this time, because this will be his doomsday. And as the Congress, has been hampering upon and teasing the Modi, and the fireback, as he has said yesterday, given in one of the gathering, he has said that if we had the French Rafales, the situation would not have been the same.
But before that, he had already said that they'd won and they had damaged Pakistan greatly. So is he admitting defeat after by saying that? We're confused, sir, because on the one hand,
defeat is always available. It's visible. It's not visible by closing your eyes. A pigeon, if close an eye in front of the cat, it doesn't. Despite this fact, the cat doesn't go away. So if the Indians think that they have won this thing, go see the event, see the word, what the word is saying. It is not it is not you and me which are saying that the 2 Indian aircrafts have been shot down. It is the word which is saying, and we have shown it to them.
Well, sir, on a positive note, what we've seen is that the Samjhota Express, the train between the 2 countries, has resumed its service. We've also seen the bus service that has been resumed. But we've not seen the Indians facilitating the Pakistani pilgrims the way Pakistan has decided to facilitate Indian pilgrims, for example, in the Kartarpur corridor, for example. India has refused to issue visas to Pakistanis to attend the Urs of Khwaja Moinuddin Chishti of Ajmer Sharif, a very respected personality all over the world. How do you see these kind of tactics by the Indians, sir? Don't you think that in order to diffuse the situation and move towards peace, the Indians should reciprocate the Pakistan's offer for talks and de-escalation? Don't you think that that should be the way forward for both countries?
In a utopian world, yes, but in a dystopian world, no. The Indians have suffered some humiliation, some embarrassment at home, and they are finding it very hard to restore that image that India is invincible or that India is militarily more powerful or more effective than Pakistan. That they are finding it very hard to swallow. So they will not go away from the brink anytime soon. They are going to keep up the pressure. These are minor tactics actually, showing their displeasure. Okay, we won't give you visas. We won't allow your film artists to come, things of that sort, because they've created such a big hype. 40 of their reserve policemen killed. Pakistan is to blame. 2 aircraft that we sent, the first that the incursion that we made in Balakot did no damage but to some isolated trees. The aircraft that we sent in pursuit of our aircraft got shot down. So these things are known to people. I mean, you can do a lot of publicity or propaganda, but in this world of social media, people know that India has suffered some kind of minor defeats on the battlefield.
But don't you attribute that to Mr. Modi's short-sighted policies, sir? And everybody's talking about why he did this at this particular time. It is all about the elections and his domestic issues and problems that he's facing at the moment.
I agree, Vakasa, but even if Modi goes away, say he loses the election, I do not think there would be a major change in the Indian government. It is, you see, the Congress has ruled India for most of the time after partition, but they have been equally, they've had equally strong stance on Kashmir. We all of us know that when Pandit Nehru claimed his ancestry from Kashmir, the mere fact that he had the appendage Pandit goes to show that he is a Kashmiri, and he was the one, he along with Mountbatten, who made sure that Kashmir accedes to India, although the instrument of accession is still very, very dubious. The way Krishna Menon was sent in to actually coerce the already very, very frightened Maharaja in Jammu to say that he's going to join the Indian Union. So all these things are on record. I don't think there would be a major difference in India's Kashmir policy. India, in their lexicon, would remain there a two-tongue. I do not see any change there. So if we want to bring any change, you've got to have very high-class diplomacy, and diplomacy also of a nation which is strong, not of an economically challenged or depressed nation. But that is the challenge.
I think that's very important that you raised that point, sir. On a lighter note, sir, I would also like to add there was a BBC story which I found very amusing today, and that is that the Indian Army has reportedly spent 6 months watching Chinese spy drones violating their airspace, only to realize that they were actually Jupiter and Venus.
Oh God.
What does that say about the level of the Indian Army? So if for 6 months they thought that 2 planets in the sky were drones, what can we expect? Please, I would like any of you to comment on that, sir.
It was, Indian Army materially, it's not, they at the moment require a real upgradation. Even the BBC said that their 60% of their equipment is outdated. You see this mid-2021 is 60s?
It's very old.
60,
it's vintage.
60 or 65.
It's the 1960s
year of manufacture.
planes,
Yes,
200 of those.
Yes.
They say they've upgraded it, but it's still
and these
vintage
are known
aircraft.
as the flying coffins in the Indian Air Force. So Indian Army technologically, you see their tank project has also been put on hold. Their project of light aircraft has been put on hold. Their missile program is also feeling difficulties to take off. So these are the things which are hampering the advancement, training.
Please don't give them ideas, sir. I think it's best they keep it like that. Sir, moving on, let's talk about the real elephant in the room, which is what's important, sir, and that is the plight of the Kashmiri people.
Yeah.
They're the ones who are suffering the brunt of this altercation between India and Pakistan. The Indians have upped the ante, as they say, in terms of, enhancing the torture and the misery of the Kashmiri people as a result of this standoff, and of course the humiliation that they've had to face as a result of it, sir. Again, sir, I ask you, what can we really do in order to bring the world's attention to this most important flashpoint, which is Kashmir, and also the plight of the Kashmiri people themselves, the inhuman lives that they are now forced to lead?
Look, first of all is the diplomatic, offensive diplomacy that we need to do. And that is that we take up the case offensively on the diplomatic front, especially in the UN and the OIC, as we have done this time. Then we should, project the atrocities which have been done by our embassies all over the world, especially if we create a desk over there and we organize a small little, gatherings and all, so that the common man over there in the Europe and the West should know what are the which have been done. When I was reading these figures, since last 10 years, 95,000 killings, including 31 children. Custodial killing 7,120.
These are just this year's figures, sir.
Yes.
Just this year. So
Yes.
imagine
Imagine
the misery that they have
atrocities.
unleashed on the people of Kashmir in the
Women
past 70
widowed,
years.
which have gone widowed, 22,894. Rapes have been 11,200. This is an alarming figure, which the word is keeping a blind eye on that. The children, 6 months child has been shot by the pellet guns, and lost both of her eyes. No, where is the humanity? Where is the human rights of the public? Where is the human rights? Are the human rights only for the liberal world?
Why is it that we cannot bring this point home, sir? Why can't we drive it home that, where are those human rights when it comes to the Kashmiri people, sir? Do you have any suggestions, sir?
My worthy colleague mentioned about a few reports that emerged last year. One was the UN High Commission, from the Office of the UN High Commission for Human Rights. It pointed out gross human rights violations. It was well received, but we did not spread it as we should have. I don't think even in our television.
Well, at least we did, sir. We did talk about it in some of our programs, because we've been doing it for the past 6 years at least, talking about the Kashmir issue.
I'm sure, but the other private channels, I don't think they talked much about it. Then there was this report by the UK Parliament, which also talked about consistent human rights violations. And there was also this session of the European Union Parliament, which talked about gross human rights violation. So what we need to do is not let these things die down. We should continue talking about these things. We have been presenting dossiers at the UN. Our permanent rep at the UN, Malia Lodhi, has also been talking about all these injuries, disfiguring of people with pellet guns, young people. Why doesn't the world listen to it? But because they do not find Kashmir a glamorous thing. It's not an issue they would really like to interest themselves. The Europeans are concerned with whatever is happening in the Middle East more, because Europeans are at a receiving end from the refugees that start pouring into their territories because of what is happening in Syria and perhaps to a certain extent Yemen or Libya, North Africa. So they are more worried about what's happening in Middle East. So they will talk about Middle East. They are not concerned about Kashmir, because Kashmiris do not go to Europe, or North America is already isolated because of the two great oceans that protect it. But basically it's fortress Europe which is threatened because of the refugee crisis. People start coming to Europe because of also the proximity of North Africa. It is just across the Mediterranean that they have to just catch a boat and go. So they
Moreover, sir, sorry for interruption, but this is the best place that they can sell their arms and ammunition. So we see the Indian buying the weapons
You're right.
from the Americans and the other world
Israelis.
market.
Yeah, this is a good market for selling their weapons. He's absolutely right. But they are not concerned about Kashmiris because Kashmiris per se do not affect them. The Kashmiris, if they are threatened or if their life is at risk, they will come over to cross over the line of control and come to Pakistan.
But sir, they wouldn't be very concerned about the Rohingya either.
They are not.
But
they are not.
they did make it the effort to bring that to an end. We finally have seen some respite for the Rohingya in their lives.
But, no, but the Bangladesh foreign minister has again protested that his country is not capable of looking after hundreds and thousands of stateless people.
But many of them have been repatriated too, sir.
But to a place which is still threatened. I think their lives are not safe in Myanmar. They would rather not go to Myanmar or Burma. They would rather go to Malaysia or Indonesia or Pakistan, anywhere else, a place which is where their lives are safe. And actually, you cannot send back refugees if they do not want to go, if they are threatened, if their life and limb is endangered. So the world is impervious to issues like Rohingyas or Moros or Muslims anywhere. So, but I guess perhaps because of Israel, they find more coverage of what is happening in Palestine. I think this is something they have to do because they have to report on what is happening in Israel. They do not have to report about Kashmir at all. They are not concerned.
But also the fact that the Indians don't allow anybody to report on what's happening in
you're
Kashmir.
right.
That in itself, sir, it speaks volumes regarding the situation in
You're
the
right,
valley.
but you see the reports that came out. There were 3 reports.
Yes,
and
sir.
all of them did mention in great deal of detail of what is happening. And because of the proliferation of social media, you cannot keep a lid on these things.
True,
things get reported by other means. You don't need a Robert Fisk sitting in Srinagar to report. Things do get out, but people are not concerned because they don't feel the pain of the Kashmiris. So it is us who can do it. You did it, but I do not think the kind of coverage that our national media, and that includes all the 24/7 cable televisions, we are not on the same platform. So I think a national campaign needs to be
devised.
Hey, what to talk of media, sir? We never listen anything from in the previous government from the Kashmir committee.
Yes.
No, they never talked about.
That was a dysfunction. That was dysfunctional. Totally.
Well, at least this government has promised to give something back to the people who have suffered at the hands of the Indians, especially the people living on the line of control. They will be compensated according to the Kashmir minister that we have over here, sir. Another very important development, sir, on the local front is a very heavy government crackdown on such banned militant organizations that have given Pakistan a bad name internationally. I think that is now being taken very seriously by the government. Please comment on this particular drive, sir.
Look, that is basically concerning the Financial Action Task Force issues which are there. Government is coming very hard, and it is not only for them, it is good for the country also, as Tural has said, that if we will be strong, only then we will be able to dictate to the others. The beggars has no right to choose. So there is a requirement that we must put our house in order. We must keep our accounts straight, as in the terms of accountancy it is said that we keep our accounts straight, and the government is coming very hard on this and should come hard, that whatever is money channel is there, it should not be dirty money in overall. And you see a lot of big shots also been named in that. There is a requirement that all the madrasas and these because these India is portraying that every place where the Quran is being taught is a terrorist training camp. So that narrative needs to be addressed. And India has again played very badly against Pakistan in the Financial Action Task Force meeting, because India is one of the member of Asia Pacific Group, and they have literally by name they have said in that meeting that what about the 2-3 terrorist groups which are, as they claim, is should be there in their accounts. So, government has started doing. It's part of the national action plan. It's not that we are doing it now. We are taking these steps from last 3 to 3 years, and it needs to be addressed.
Dr. Yamin Saab, please, if you could please give us some last comments on this particular issue of the crackdown against these banned organizations that are bringing a bad name to our country, sir.
I think it's been late in coming. President Musharraf, in an address to the nation in 2002, had said that there will be no Jaishes and there will be no Lashkars. He was very vehement, but I think we have been rather tardy in these things, and time and again we have been saying that we are banning Jamaat-ul-Dawa or Falah Insaniyat, but some of these banned organizations continue to survive. So I think this time the government does seem very determined to follow through, and frankly saying they don't have any choice. This FATF thing is really very difficult to escape. So I think they should do it, and I think they're doing it to the best of their abilities. The National Action Plan must be really executed.
It must letter and spirit.
Letter and spirit. It must come to fruition. It has not performed as it should have performed, despite the fact that we lost 150 children and women teachers in the carnage that took place in Army Public School on 16th December 2014. So I think it's time now that we should put our house in order. Organizations which are embarrassing your country should not be allowed to operate.
Absolutely, sir. Well, thank you very much, gentlemen, for taking out the time and sharing your views with PTV World. Well, you heard the conversation, and as always, we like to say, please draw your own conclusions from what you've heard. On that note, it's goodbye.